I call these videos the music of, and in this case we're looking at John Scofield. So the music of John Scofield, meaning we're not necessarily looking at his playing techniques. There are plenty of videos on that, but we're looking at some of his tunes that he writes or plays, and we're trying to investigate his music to see if there is something we can learn from it, because I think it's important to study these contemporary players to understand the role of the jazz guitarist today. And today we're looking at John Scofield. So I have 4 tunes, and we're gonna look at them and play them, and yeah, let's get right into it, shall we? The first tune is called Heaven Hill, and it's one of my favorite tunes of his, and I'll play along with the iReal Pro. I created a track in iReal Pro, and then we'll look at the MuseScore so you get the tabs and everything. But first I'll just play it with iReal Pro here. So it starts with kind of like a blues. It's just soloing. That way you're back. And of course it sounds ridiculous with the iReal Pro, but we're trying to learn a tune here. We're not trying to create perfect backing tracks. So we'll play along with the MuseScore too, so that you can see the tabs, and it's also going to sound ridiculous, but it is what it is. So just chords. So a couple of things that are interesting right off the bat. It's a 3/4, or it's 9/8. Most of the time when you see a 9/8 time signature, it's some kind of waltz with triple subdivision. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 2. You hear this in gospel music and in like Americana, like one, two, three, right? Amazing Grace is like that. At least the versions I've heard. And that's kind of unusual in jazz. There are other 9/8 time signatures in world music and stuff, but the most common is just 3 with subdivisions. So he's inspired by kind of gospel harmony here, I think. I want to caveat that all this I'm saying in these videos are speculation on my part. I don't have the proof that he says, oh, I'm influenced by this or that, but I think this has got a gospel vibe to it, and blues, of course, and he is very, very influenced by blues. But it's not just, it's what I call extended blues harmony, so it's not just a 1, 3, and 5 chord, or 1, 4, and 5 chord, they're much more, obviously, but the tune is kind of bluesy. There are these John Scofield isms, like double stops and guitar things that he does, that you kind of need to play this tune. So all these. And of course, a big thing about John Scofield's playing is his use of ghost notes. But this is not a video about his playing technique, but you know, you have to kind of like... Right, so timing and stuff like that is necessary to bring out the most of this tune, and of course we can't do that with iReal Pro and MuseScore. But you know, I don't want to play the recording of the music because then the algorithms will get me. But I recommend, of course, that you play along with the recording of this tune and practice to kind of how they stretch the timing and everything. So there are also some interesting things here. It goes into E, from G blues to some kind of E blues with gospel kind of changes. That's very gospel-y, like that. And when you see chords like that, when you play in this style, you're not trying to make every chord like this chord. Try to play the proper scale for every chord like that. It's more of like a blues approach where you try to play a blues kind of language. So you can start off obviously with G blues. And then you go into E blues, which is kind of related. And here's E major, right? And then we're E minor, kind of. So I'm not saying that that's how John Scofield is thinking, but there is definitely a way where you could get away with just playing blues material over the tune, but there are quite involved chord changes, but you don't have to nail the changes the same way as if you would play giant steps or something like that. This comes from another kind of style, and some of these chords are interesting. It's that chord, right? G sharp, F sharp, B, E. I call it E sus2 over G sharp. But the melody note is A to. So it's this chord. Again, the G sharp, F sharp, B, E. E sus2 over G sharp, but with an A on top. What the hell would you call that chord? Kurt Rosenwinkel plays this chord in some of his tunes. I've seen this chord. But what name would I give this chord? So comment below if you have a name for G sharp, F sharp, B, E, and A. So it's a stack of fourths over G sharp. So gospel harmony, kind of Americana, almost like hymn-like, folkloristic almost vibe going on here. And of course, if you're gonna play this tune, you would have to play it with a nice feel. So it's not just triplets and or eighth note. There's time stretching involved in playing in this kind of tradition of it's almost got kind of a New Orleans-y vibe to it too, right? We're gonna see more of that. Let's move on with the next tune. So the next tune is Since You Asked from the album Time on My Hands, I think the album is called. It's got Joe Lovano and Dave Holland and Jack DeShonette, I think. I think it was the first, or I know it was the first John Scofield album I ever got. So this tune is called Since You Asked. Let's do the same thing. Let's play with iReal Pro. So the point here is not to play exactly like John Scofield is doing. It would be a lot of work. And I'm playing it kind of with my own kind of twist on it. So this tune starts with just the guitar and he's playing more involved. And then the second time the A section comes back, the melody is kind of taken over by Joe Lovano, and without all the kind of course he can't do all the double stops. And then Scofield is kind of doing the same thing in the background, embellishments and all this stuff. And here it's also, timing is everything to play it with the tune kind of don't make sense if you don't apply the kind of timing aspect of it. But let's do the MuseScore here too, so we learn the tune. So of course it sounds ridiculous with the MuseScore, but surprisingly good anyway. So if I try to experiment with kind of the timing. It could be very swung or very straight, right? Triplets. Oh. Straight. So you have to find a way to like make it swing in that kind of style. It's like New Orleans kind of time stretching, and obviously the musicians you play with is gonna make a difference. If you are lucky enough to play with Dave Holland and Jack DeJohnette, I think it's Dave Holland on that record. So it's interesting, this kind of so I can't obviously notate exactly, or maybe I could. If you really spend time with it, you could notate exactly what he's playing. So the first 8 bars is just the guitar and bass and drums, and then Joe Lovano comes in later. So he's playing almost like this kind of style. Finger style almost. You know what I meant? So it's not how you expect really a jazz guitar. If I see this chord progression now and play jazz guitar, oh, I see it's, or maybe I would go, that's how you play jazz. But here, it's like he's almost inspired by the blues finger picking style players. I don't know if John Scofield are into that kind of stuff. I know some jazz guitar players are. Like, I don't know, that's one of my weakest areas. Like, I don't know the history of those American acoustic steel string blues finger style players. I mean, there's Chet Atkins, but that's more elegant. That's not what this is. And so something that comes back again and again in these videos where we're looking at contemporary guitar players is that they don't necessarily play jazz guitar 101. Even though they come from that, they all listen to Wes Montgomery and George Benson, early George Benson and all that stuff, Tal Farlow and what have you. But they bring in other elements. But it's still jazz, but it's not like, this is not how Wes Montgomery would play. It's something else. So, and also the melodies are very often very pentatonic and blues, and you could sing them, right? But the chords behind it, and also I think Monk has to be a major influence on John Scofield. He's got this taste for these. It's very interesting. That's a G alter. He's playing D flat, fifths, and then I would never think of that, to play altered like that. And then here, C minor, pentatonic over A altered. So when you have this chord progression, like a turnaround in minor, like this, could have the same top note. If you watch my video on my transcription of Jesse Van Ruler's solo on his tune The Secret Champ, it was a same thing, right? It's more coming from blues. That it's not supposed to be. If you try to play C melodic minor, A altered, D altered, G altered, yeah, you could do that, I guess, but it's more a blues thing. So again, you have this melody. The A flat is not really part of it, that blues scale, but it's kind of simple. But the chords, that's what I mean by extended blues harmony. I'm not sure if that's a correct term for it, but you're playing in a blues style, but you're adding all these other chords and harmonies. I digress here. I was going to say something about, oh yeah, this kind of dissonances that I think he gets from a Monk. So when you have that B flat sus chord, so B flat sus is an A flat over B flat, but you could play an A flat major 7 over B flat. But what a lot of people miss is that you can include that D in a sus chord in the jazz context. You can throw in the major third on top over everything so that it's like that. It's like you're playing an F minor 11, 13, sorry, F minor 13 over B flat. So something I noticed about his playing, that he leaves space rhythmically, but he also leaves space in his chords. So instead of playing the whole, he might just play that, like the dissonant, the major 7th. And the C minor scale, pentatonic over A altered is really cool. Same thing starts with it. And here, ghost notes is everything. So you could make an effort to try to learn to play exactly like he does. I didn't do that this time, but because if you want to study ghost notes in jazz guitar, Scofield is. But a lot of these notes are just... right? So if you never played like that, that could be something you have to get used to, but it's kind of ghosting notes is something that horn players do all the time, and we need that kind of in this style to make it funky. Okay, I could say a lot more about this tune, but let's move on. So all these are gonna be on my Patreon page, both as kind of with the tabs, but also I'll try to make lead sheets without the tabs. Again, we have this kind of New Orleans funky vibe, and of course we have a huge influence on Scofield is funk. He's played a lot of funk kind of inspired music throughout his career, and it's clearly an element in his music. And it's got this kind of B flat minor 13 vibe. I think it's Brad Meldau playing on this, and his playing is very interesting. This tune makes me think also of things like Herbie Hancock, like the, you know, like... And then just because it goes to D minor, it goes to D flat 7, for some reason it kind of makes me think of Herbie Hancock. And also all of a sudden these chords, these kind of non-functional harmonies, that A major 7 sharp 5, maybe it's just an F7 altered, but maybe with the bass playing the A or something. Again, that's like the melody is kind of... You can sing that melody, right? It's not very complex, but the harmonies... Maybe it's a dominant chord there. I'm not sure. What do you think? Is it dominant or maybe 7 sharp flat 5? So again, it's like those chords could be something that Joe Henderson would play, or Herbie Hancock. Alright, you know what to do. Let's play along with the MuseScore. Here we go. So let's just play the top melody. I think a huge inspiration here also is Eddie Harris. If you listen to Eddie Harris music, some of his records, it's very much like this. And of course, he was even played with John Scofield later on one of his records. I think it's one called Hand Jive, if I'm not mistaken. And I saw that show when they played in Sweden, on that tour from that record where Eddie Harris was with him, and that was really fantastic. And I think Eddie Harris died just quite shortly after that. Okay, last tune is Green Tea, which is a really fun tune to play, and often like introduction tune to jazz for some guitar players. If you are new to jazz, this is a good tune to start with. So here we're gonna play with a backing track actually that I found on YouTube. One more time. It's got a little bit of a Latin kind of twist. again, I feel like this is like a boogaloo, kind of like the blue note Herbie Hancock with this kind of going to another chord. And we talked about this in Q&A with my patrons recently, that nobody calls like Pat Metheny tunes and stuff like that on jam sessions because they're very complex tunes. Like the forms are long and all these interludes and things. Here it's straightforward. It's a tune you could call on a jam session, and it's like a kind of like a Herbie Hancock, early Herbie Hancock tune, right? So here he's using, I think, open strings, like in a country kind of style, like something Bill Frisell would do. So I'm not claiming here, like the fingerings are not John Scofield's fingerings. That's a whole topic in and of itself that I'm not an expert on. I'm just playing. The transcriptions will have mistakes in them here and there. That's not the point here. I've said it before in these videos. It's not the idea is to not to make perfect charts and perfect transcriptions. We're looking into the music of these musicians to see, you know, what is it that makes these sound like John Scofield. Hopefully we could shed some light on that here with these 4 tunes, and there's certain themes that we find when we look at all these tunes. So I've previously done Bill Frisell, which was also kind of in the same style, like Americana, and then Pat Metheny, of course, and then Lionel Louike, which was more Africana, so that's a little bit different. And yeah, all these PDFs and everything are, of course, on my Patreon page. So with all this, I want to thank you for your time and attention. I shall see you next time.